Yeah, hi there. These comments are for JYM, and I am Michael, and I am the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass the TOEFL IBT. You're also one of my students in the English language program here at California State University, San Bernardino. Okay, so I'm reading your essay right now. So let's go ahead and make a few corrections. So I'm going to say, give you a little bit better sentence variety here. So maybe this. I'm going to say thinks because you're also saying mentions and then rejects. So keep your verbs consistent. So we have in the lecture, contending that homeschooling is good. The speaker thinks homeschooling is much worse than we thought. He also mentions that the reality is far from the pessimistic picture that the reading passage suggests. That is correct. You say, however, the author of the reading passage rejects the lecturer's assertions. All right. So you're choosing, you can do this either way. So you're putting the lecture and then the reading, and then the lecture again, and then the reading, and so on, right? You can do that. So you have to begin. The lecturer states that social skills are important, but many of the top-paying jobs like accounting do not require social skills. Therefore, he points out that there are other opportunities for socializing, such as social networks. However, this is contradictory to the reading passage that says it does not provide social interaction with others. Okay. Your next paragraph. You have, in addition, we have the speaker mentions that homeschooling makes students more self-reliant and independent. Unlike the reading passage, you probably need to use a word like this instead of a preposition here. However, the reading passage says that a successful consequence of homeschooling derives from parents. He points out that struggling themselves will provide the opportunity to learning to be self-reliant and independent. This view is in direct opposition to the reading passage. So here, you're having some trouble explaining your ideas here. So this is going to cause some trouble. Okay, let's take a look at what it says in the lecture. The lecture is saying here, we cannot let minimal cases of abuse and irresponsible parents dictate the notion of homeschool. There are cases of abuse and irresponsibility from teachers and students. More importantly, the idea that teachers do not instruct homeschool students is completely false. Today's technology allows. This is what you didn't really say, which I think is important. So you're missing, I think, some important points that you should probably say here. So I think you're missing some of the ideas, I think, from either the reading passage or the lecture. We have find with the author of the reading passage asserts that homeschools you might say prevent students from learning and responsibility. On the other hand, the speaker of the lecture believes that homeschooling will make them self-initiated because when the student goes to college, you can probably put a comma here, they don't have their parents pushing them to do their homework. So I don't think in just one sentence you can exactly explain all the information from the reading passage. And the thing is if you follow what you've done before, you're starting with the lecture and then the reading passage, then the lecture, the reading passage again. I would also follow that same pattern here. That would be a more logical presentation of the information, which means you want to take the lecture, put it first, then put the reading passage after that. All right, so now the question is, what is your score here? So I think on this one, you have a fairly clear organization, although as I pointed out, your final paragraph, you probably should have followed the same order as you did before in terms of discussing the lecture and then the reading passage. That would have been a little more logical. I think you have omitted maybe a key point, as I pointed out from the lecture. So sometimes your ideas are just not developed enough and you have some sentence structure, word choice issues in there. Okay, so here on this one, I'm going to put you at about 3.0 out of 5, or 20 points out of 30 on this particular practice test, as you can see in the rubrics here. Now, the purposes of our class, 3.0 is going to put you at 76% on this assignment. So I think you probably needed to develop your ideas just a little bit more than you did, and it would have been a little easier understanding exactly what the relationship, I think, is between the lecture and the reading passage.